me that too. And that is really, really critical. The good news is, I know in the 21 years that I've covered news that we are a nation of tackling problems. My candidate was not about just getting black votes. You cannot win with just the black vote. You need a lot of the white vote to win. And what he was able to do, and what was learned, was that to win, you have to cast a wide and diverse net. And if you can do that, the message can have incredible power. And you can win. That's the takeaway. When Drew Gilpin Faust was named the first female president at Harvard, Time Magazine asked me to write an article about her appointment. And I told the story of my sister Estella, who attended Harvard 3 years ahead of me, and she was a physics major. I was a freshman when she was getting ready to leave. And I told the story of how she was constantly and consistently pressured to drop out of physics as a major, because girls don't succeed in this major, and because minorities do not succeed in this major. And I remember asking her for this article, I just want to make sure, so you got all this subtle pressure. She said, it wasn't subtle, my advisor would call me. Girls don't succeed, minorities don't succeed. It wasn't subtle at all. And she finished Harvard in 3 years, and she went on to get her master's in astrophysics, and then got her MD, PhD in medicine, and she's an eye surgeon in Harlem today. But every step of the way, she was told, women will not succeed in this field, minorities will not succeed in this field. And I asked her, well then, what was it, why did you stick it out? What was the thing? And she said to me, well obviously, it was Mom. So I'll tell you the story of my mother, because many years ago I was asked by a magazine, a women's magazine, to share the best advice I'd ever gotten. And they said, listen, you and your mom, hugging, cover, best advice my mom ever gave me. And I said, because my mother is a loving mother, but she is a tough nut immigrant mother and not a sweet, quotable mother. I said, I think that's a really bad idea. And they said, no, it'll be great. You, Mom, hugging, cover. I said, okay. My mother's advice to me, the best advice I ever got from my mother was this. Lovey, because she calls me Lovey, Lovey, most people are idiots. At which point, the editor of this magazine literally said, okay, we'll call you back. But it was truly some of the most formative advice for me because of the life my mother and father lived. My mom and dad met in Baltimore in 1958. My mother is black and from Cuba, and my dad is white and from Australia. And my mother used to tell the story to me and my sisters about dating my father, how they started dating. They used to both go to daily mass. My dad would drive because he had a car, and my mom would walk because she didn't. And he would wind down the back. Young people, there was a day when windows used to wind down. He used to wind down the window of the car and say, would you like a ride? My mother would say, no, because you don't accept rides from men. And I was like, even going to daily mass? God. And they did this over and over again until one day my mother said, yes, I'll take a ride. And they went out to dinner that night, and everywhere they went, people turned them away, because it was Baltimore in 1958 and interracial dating was frowned upon. So they literally would tell my father, you can come in and eat, but she has to stay in the car. She can't come in. You certainly can't come in together. Every step of the way. And my mother would tell the story of how she took my father back to her apartment. She's an amazing cook of terrific Cuban food, and whipped up a meal for him. She's one of those people who could take like a green pepper and an onion and a leftover whatever and make an 8-course meal. And she used to tell us the story, literally to me and my sisters, because she'd say, see girls, if you could cook, you could get a man. I always say, I don't make it, but I make it happen. And in all seriousness, my sisters and I took something much bigger from her stories, which was, if people put out obstacles, step around them. My parents decided to get married at the end of 1958. In Baltimore, Maryland, in the state of Maryland, interracial marriage was illegal. Had not been overturned by the Supreme Court yet, the ban against it. And so, my mom and dad drove to Washington, D.C. and got hitched, and then drove back to Baltimore and lived as a married couple, even though the law said they did not count. And my mother used to tell us how every time people would say to her, for the sake of the children, don't have children. Interracial children, biracial children will never fit in this world. I'm number 5 of 6, so my parents were bad listeners every step of the way. But they instilled in us to dream and do whatever you want to do, as long as you're willing to work hard for it. do and accomplish whatever you want to do. If people put out obstacles, then it is your duty to step around them. And so, when I was applying for reporting jobs, first reporting job in Springfield, Massachusetts, and the news director, after a very good interview, said to me, listen, I'd love to hire you, but we only have one job for a black person, and you're not dark-skinned enough to count. And I was like, should you be offended that it's just one job for a black person, or should I be more offended? That was before the days when I learned, oh, lawsuits, that could be good. And I remember literally going home and crying, and my mother saying, oh, Lovey, most people are idiots. Go get a new job. You don't want to work there anyway. And then, not 24 hours later, I had a job interview in Hartford, Connecticut. And I remember sitting down with the news director, and he said to me, Soledad, such a complicated name. Do you ever think you might want to change that name? And I said, I remember thinking, you know, for those of you who don't speak Spanish, María de la Soledad, roughly translated, means the Virgin Mary. So I thought, well, since I don't want to be struck dead on my way home by changing my name from the Virgin Mary to anything, no, I won't be changing my name. And calling my mother, I'm never going to get a job doing what I want to do, because people just can't understand, they think I'm too different. And she said, oh, Lovey, most people are idiots. Go get another job. And she was right. And in a way, I have the best jobs, because whenever I'm worn down, worn out, or just tired, or just sat on the tarmac at the airport for an hour, I invariably am on my way to interview somebody, like this woman I interviewed recently, a single mom with 3 kids who are roughly the same ages as my kids. My kids are, I have 4-year-old twins, and an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. And so I'm going to ask you to remember this quote, because it's worth it. And it's a quote from Dante, but it was, I'm told, was President Kennedy's favorite quote. It goes like this. The hottest places in hell are reserved for those who in times of great moral crisis reserve their neutrality. The hottest places in hell. So there is nothing worse than doing nothing and saying nothing when your voice is needed. That's even worse than being the person who's doing something bad, is being the person who does not raise your voice when there's bad going on around you. That is far worse, is what he's saying. The time is now. We have an opportunity to lead change. We have, as we flux to a knowledge economy, we have this opportunity to bring our diversity, all of us, and to celebrate others' diversity. As hard as it may be in a meeting where someone is saying something that you completely and utterly do not agree with, but to celebrate it and listen to it, and focus on some of the issues that we're facing today, which are big issues. They're not 3 smart guys figuring it out. It's all of us together sorting through it. Global warming, the economy, I mean the whole subprime crisis, education, these are huge, huge problems. Bringing our diversity to the table to solve these problems. That is the only thing, really, that we can do. Thank you very much, and I'm going to open it up to questions.